Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another show of Let's Talk About It. I am your co-host, Mr. William Bertice, and we have two really great guests that will be joining us today on today's show. We have some great information, and hopefully you can learn something and take it with you. But before we get into who our guest is today, we are going to introduce ourselves. We have Mr. Terrell Simmons. You on mute, Terrell?
Let's unmute myself so that now that you can hear me, because when I'm in the mic, I always sound nice. But it's Terrell Simmons, your career and business strategist, helping you and reminding you to do what you love what you do. Don't chase the money. Let the money chase you.
Let the money chase you. And as you can see, we're missing two co-hosts today.
Yeah, Clinton running on that Jamaican time,
Working on that Jamaican Trinidadian time. So we'll be here at any moment. In fact, it seems like he's coming on right now.
Oh, right on time. Clinton, go ahead and give your introduction.
Yeah, intro yourself.
Yes, sir. This is Clinton James, your local real estate broker here in San Diego. As they say, often imitated, never duplicated. If you all need any information about real estate, when is the right time to buy in San Diego, reach out to me, 619-384-9269.
Clint's the man. He's got you covered in all real estate needs here in San Diego.
Right on time, man. Right on time.
and as you can see, we are down one co-host, Mr. Mike Dunn. We love you. We know you have some business to take care of, and we'll see you next week on the show. All right, Terrell, why don't you do us a favor? And I know we have two guests today.
We have two guests. So I still want you to do the intro to Tiffany, and then I'm going to do the intro to Michael. Tiffany's going to be joining us in about 5-10 minutes. She had a very important meeting that she couldn't cancel. But she's gonna be on. I promise you. But go ahead and do the intro to Tiffany. I'll do the intro to Michael.
Okay. Well, why don't you, let's start with the intro to Michael since we have him on, and then when Tiffany comes on, we can intro her.
All right. Awesome. All right. So I want everybody to introduce. I say introduce. My good friend Michael Derouin. He's a sought-after leader in the educational excellence. A sought-after leader in educational excellence with a high level of personal motivation and drive. He's an entrepreneur with over 20 years of managerial, personal motivation, and he's an entrepreneur with 20 years of managerial and leadership experience. I can't read today for some reason. Has served as both military and federal police officer for 10 years and 3 years sequentially. Mike was an educator who is a great listener and an excellent communicator with a keen focus and drive towards helping people. Michael's passion is helping people achieve their goals and wholeness to live to their fullest potential. I love that, Michael. I love that. He continues to be a critical thinker who is overly excited about views concerning education and empowerment of people. Let's give a round of applause for my main man. My brother from the other mother.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Mr. Simmons. I appreciate it.
Anytime, brother. So, Will, it looks like our next guest has joined us. So I'm gonna let you give the introduction.
Yes, she is.
And go ahead. Maybe you could do a better job of reading bios than I can. I guess my eyes got a little weary.
Well, I'll give it a shot. Okay, so we have Miss Tiffaney Malott who's with us today. Tiffany is a college graduate and an accidental entrepreneur. Tiffany served her country in the United States Air Force before she entered the corporate America. After 5 years in being in corporate America and working in manufacturing, she finally found an opportunity to change her life. She is 20 years veteran of network marketing and is now retired. And it looks like she is in a day over 31. So, she started network marketing when she was 11.
Nah, you know that black don't crack. I don't know what's in the water these days, but they looking younger and younger.
But let me tell you something else though. She's earned 8 figures, built a national and international business. She was a top earner for 7 straight years. She's highly sought after nationally and internationally for her enlightening, empowering, and entertaining trainings. She's now a transformational coach, helping networkers, direct sellers, home-based businesses, owners learn how to transform their business and speaking life into their lives. So thank you for coming, Tiffany. Thank you for coming, Michael.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and before we start into the show and start a lovely conversation that I know that we're gonna have today, I have to give a big thank you to Michael, because a lot of people don't know this, but Michael is the same man that helped me get Bernie onto the show. Yeah, I remember when we had that excellent conversation with Bernie.
Oh,
That's the man right here.
And his face looked familiar, man. I was like, okay, he's been on the show before.
No, he snuck in the back door.
Right.
So he helped me get Bernie, and he's connected to me. Like, I asked him to be on the show, and look at who he brought. Tiffany. I'm like, man, who else you got in your lineup?
Yeah.
I've been knowing this man for years, and I swear, if he had more pigmentation in his skin, I thought he was Jamaican, because every time I see him, he got another job, another hustle. He out there doing things. When we first meet, Michael, was it ITT? Like,
Yes, sir. It was Mr. Eugene Harris and I. We hired you.
Oh, yeah, there you go. I remember that. And then I came aboard, and then we stayed in contact ever since. And I'm grateful to have you in my life, to like every once in a while you come and you just pop in and just give me gems. So I love it. So, you know, with all this military and police experience, you know, I have to dive into this topic. I'll be remiss if I don't start off with this topic, especially since, wait a minute, what was Tiffany's quote there, William? What's her favorite quote? Could you read it for me again?
Oh yeah, let me. Her quote is, "The obstacle is the opportunity."
So
Absolutely.
I want to lead in with that. In today's climate in America, with you guys coming from such a with the military background, and this looking at today's climate, whether it be COVID, Black Lives Matter, police brutality, where do you see the opportunity and the obstacles that we're facing in today's climate, and what's kind of been your experience in this age and time that we're experiencing these two pandemics? And
Well, for the obstacle, I mean, in every bad there's good, and you just got to look for that good. And you know, one of the things that I've found from it is, even though people are being diverse and separated, they're coming together.
mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for the pandemic, if it wasn't for Black Lives Matter, people wouldn't be doing what we're doing now, coming together on Zoom, and not just reaching a national platform, but reaching a worldwide platform. And you're able to connect with people that you've never been able to connect with in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel all things are possible through God. You know, the whole reason I'm here today is because of God, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I believe every obstacle, there's something good in it. And just like Miss Malott, you know, teaches me as being my coach, is you got to look at the obstacles and see how you can move forward. Or like she says, well, how can we pivot? How can we look at what we're doing, recap, and pivot moving forward?
All right, Tiffany. Nice. It sounds like you taught them well. Go ahead. Let me hear what you got to say.
You already know a lot. Yeah, I started using that quote, "The obstacle is the opportunity," for myself, because first of all, if you look at the obstacle as something that's there to defeat you, you always are in victimhood. You always feel like, why me instead of why not me? You know, you always say, why is this happening to me, instead of looking at it as, how is this working? How is this happening for me? And so I went through some tough times in the past year, over the past few years. And I had two choices. I could actually turn this into my swan song, or I could let this define me as that beaten down woman that never came up and never came out of it. So God just kind of gave me the obstacle as an opportunity, because when I think about an obstacle, that's all it really is. As kids, we used to love obstacles. They say, you're going to the obstacle course. We'd be like, yeah, nobody got scared of the obstacle course. But as we got older, we were taught fear. As we got older, we were taught failure. And every time we failed, someone made us feel bad about the failure, instead of feeling good about learning this is how not to do it. Now you can find a better way. And so for me, I just look at everything as an opportunity to grow. I am grateful for my Goliath. And in today's climate, the Goliath of the pandemic, this was a time for people to pivot And I mean, I think a lot of people were smart in that they literally found that they had opportunities right in their home. They actually could be entrepreneurs when they were so busy working for someone else that they didn't even realize that they had their own gift, their own dream, their own offering that they were not nurturing because they were working on someone else's. And that pandemic that everyone thought was so bad, I have people that I've coached that actually made more money during the pandemic than they did any other months this whole year or even last year.
Okay.
Because the obstacle was the opportunity. It was the opportunity to do your business online. It was the opportunity to realize, while you don't have to give 40 hours a week to someone else, you could give it for once to yourself and not feel like you're hurting anybody. The opportunity was finally to finish that book. Opportunity was finally to finish that branding and do that logo. The opportunity was there for you to finally pour into you and not have anyone over your shoulder saying, you know, you don't have time for that, because all we had was time. And I think the opportunity with this, with Black Lives Matter, the obstacle, it's been an obstacle for so long. It has been an obstacle for so long. And we as a people have overcome it over and over and over again. And what I think this obstacle is, our greatest opportunity, is to finally step up, stand out, speak up, and stop it, and do our best to stop it from coming back. And this time, it's not us against them. It's more of us and them, and it's everybody who's just fed up. And so I think the obstacle of this racial divide, the obstacle of us acting like we're so new millennium and we're still so prehistoric in our thinking and the way we deal with each other, I think the obstacle is for us to finally evolve the way we claim to. And for those of us in our own way as individuals to take responsibility for what we can do and finally do something about it. You got little kids in suburban neighborhoods drawing their own signs, marching alone. And that was what they could do, their opportunity to do for the obstacle. It's everybody's chance to finally step up and be part of a movement that I truly believe will finally take us as a human race into the new millennium.
Ooh. Whew. I don't know how you follow that one up. Now I see why you brought on the show, Michael. I see her why you brought on the show. So Michael, give me a little context. How did you guys meet? And
originally we met at a Super Bowl party, and it was the first launch of a book. So this was 10, 15 years ago.
Okay.
And then I believe the Lord brought us back together to be able to work together, and the reason I brought her on the show is because the message that she has to say and to how she's bringing people together, and not just sit there and think about woe is me, you know, all this hate and all this hate, but what can we do moving forward? We can't go back to normal. There is no normal. We can't go backwards. We have to move forward.
What like at this point, what do we really consider normal, right? I think we're still trying to evaluate that. What's the new normal?
I think we've all just realized that doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
It's like that's a word. I think that's gonna be a word that goes like that becomes defunct. People say, someone says it, you be like, you still say that? You still say that?
Right.
That's still in your vocabulary.
And that leads me into another question I have. You know, one of the questions that I have about for Michael and Tiffany is that the new normal, all right, but at the same time too, that we haven't been. It's not like this is new to us. We've been here before many times, except for the COVID, the virus, which is the COVID-19 virus, which caused us to actually think differently and think more individualistic of how we can actually progress forward or change how our direction. But at the same time too, as a society, we've been here before. Now, the question that I have is this: how do we keep that momentum? Because it's created such I love the momentum that is created, especially among the generation Z, I think, and millennials, because they're pushing the envelope in terms of making sure that there's equality and there's justice for all, but also they're also changing the way that work is being done. But at the same time, too, this is a new normal, we call it. But at the same time, one of the main things is that the fear is that how do we keep that momentum going when things get back to how regular?
I must say, I do love what this younger generation. They really stepping up. the leadership in this young generation, we have to watch out. That's a sight to behold.
Yeah, I thought they were only about avocado toast, but you know that.
Nah, they more than avocado toast. Don't let these youngsters fool you. About to run up on you, Clinton.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. As far as keeping the momentum going, I think everyone has to understand that they play an important part in continuing the momentum. I think one of the biggest problems is that people always think it's somebody else who can handle it better than them. And that's why we are all admiring these younger generations, because they literally are living the obstacles, the opportunity. I mean, if you look at, some of these people and what they're doing, their kids and on their phones, what they're doing to change the narrative just with what they're doing on social media. I mean, you literally have the Korean K-pop stans actually hijacking hashtags to do their part, And because they all didn't say, hey, I'm just a teenager in South Korea, that likes K-pop. They didn't say that. They said, okay, this is the problem, the obstacle. What opportunity do I have? What can I do about it? I'm really good at tech. I'm gonna hijack some hashtags, and then they make a movement out of that. It sounds small, but look how big it is. Look how big it is. And I think continuing the momentum is everyone looking at what can I do? What can I do? Right? And that is what a lot of people don't do. A lot of people are pointing the fingers at the media, pointing the fingers at the politicians, pointing the finger at what this person should do. But the real question is, what can you do? There are only two things we can control: our attitude and our actions. I can't control what any of you do, but I can control what I do. And if everyone did what they could do, then that's when the world actually changes. And so for me, what I've been doing is I host a Common Sense Corner, Tiff's Common Sense Corner. It's my own little show, kind of like this. And I've been having town halls, interviewing people to continue the conversation. I did my first one like 2 weeks ago, and my first town hall, and we had 20,000 views, and I had 8 people, white and black, from different backgrounds, and we had the uncomfortable conversation.
Okay,
and we had
I love
so many people who were inspired by that. Tomorrow, I air another episode where it's me and 4 white people having the uncomfortable conversation. So that is my role. If somebody can hijack hashtags, I can moderate conversations. I can make sure I keep it in front of people's faces and say, hey, wait, this white privilege is not over. Hold on a minute. Even though you went back to work and the pool is back open, Black lives still matter. What are we going to do about it? And I think everyone needs to take their individual responsibility and make sure they calendar it in, set a goal, and stay consistent on fighting for that until. And that until may not be tomorrow, and it may not be next week. We know it won't. But what can we do until? Everyone needs to vote. Everyone needs to continue the conversation. Everyone needs to find out where they can volunteer. But the problem with a lot of people is they are looking at what can you do? What can the big person do? What can the big moneymaker do? And
Absolutely.
Really, we all just need to be asking ourselves, what can I do?
Now, I'm just curious, is Michael one of the white people that's going to be on this panel?
No.
Oh, okay, all right. I was like, that's not fair. You got one of your friends.
No, Michael's not white enough. I got the white.
Well, I mean, everybody don't know that yet, because they just seeing this white man. They're like, oh, he presenting as white. What this white boy doing in all this chocolate right here?
No, Michael is. You know what? I'll tell you why Michael and I stay in touch. We got back in touch with each other through Facebook. Social media keeps a lot of people connected. But Michael has always been the person in the room that is a person who recognizes other persons.
Yeah,
that's who Michael is.
I would attest to that.
I'm not going to say he's colorblind, because I don't think that's good. But he honors and respects every individual regardless of their color. And that's why we have worked well together. And that's why he works well with so many other people. And I just, that's why he couldn't be on my thing. He's not white enough,
Yeah. So he's one of the few white boys I know that's just comfortable, just chilling in the hood, like and just learning and being him still. He's not trying to be right. He's not trying to take over our culture. He's being comfortable in his own skin and his culture, and still being amongst our culture at the same time. So speaking of what you've been doing, I know you spoke a little bit to it. Michael, what have you been doing?
Me, I've just been, I look at life at this. What would Jesus do? Everything I ask, what would Jesus do? He's going to do what's right, not what's comfortable and what's popular. So throughout my whole life, I mean, where my background came from, where there's 3-5-year-old kids having guns, and that's the type of people that I grew up. I've seen racial inequality growing up in my life. I've seen it happen to some of my really good friends. So, as that time I was able to give a voice, I've always given a voice. I have no problem giving a voice. So the first thing, like you talked about, is what am I doing? Taking that first step, recognizing that there's a problem, also that there needs to be a change, especially with law enforcement, with background. The way that law enforcement's trained, the way that they recruit people, it has to change. When I was a law enforcement officer, the one thing that really pissed me off the most was everyone always thought they were above the law that was in wearing the shield. You can't think like that. You're there to serve a purpose to help others.
Yeah,
Michael,
absolutely.
you bring up a good point about thinking that you're above the law, because I just was watching a clip from 60 Minutes Rewind last night, and it was about how this man in I think it was Alabama about 50 something years ago was shot and killed by a police officer because a state legislative shot another black man, and he said, well, just lie and say that it was in self-defense. And he said, well, he initially said, okay, I'll do it, and he changed his mind, and that police officer eventually shot that black man, killed him. He was found by his son, and 50 some odd years later, this man is still alive, and the other man is dead, and there's no justice for it.
Right.
But there's one question I want to ask you, and both Tiffaney and everybody else could probably join on this conversation too, because the major topic seems like is being brought up to the White House and the political realm, especially in your cities, is defunding the police. Not in the sense of saying we don't need police, but in a sense of we need to create more parameters to prevent crime. So what are you guys' thoughts on defunding the police, especially since, Michael, you're a former law enforcement?
I would be against it because when you don't have police, then chaos happens. But you need to have the right police officers in the right position, and not just the right police officers, the right leaders, because who are these police being led by? In my time in the military, I would have someone say, hey, go pick that up, but then they would tell me but not show me. So as a leader myself, I would actually go and work with them. So defunding the police, it's going to be chaos. So what about when you do need that police officer, but the funding wasn't there and there's an emergency and you don't have it? So I'd be against it, but you need to look at what is the leadership that we have in place that are in charge of the police, and then what are the type of police that we have in place now. This police officer that pretty much murdered George Floyd, how many different infractions did that police officer have? He should have been gone a long time ago. It should not just be that police officer's responsibility. It should be his supervisor's responsibility. Why didn't they do something about it? And that's normal. That happens a lot. This isn't the first time. My background is, taking criminal justice, finishing up my bachelor's in criminal justice. It's something that's happened more and more and more. Why are these people allowed to continue doing what they're doing when they're not just affecting their lives, but everyone's lives around them? So we need to look at where is the money being spent and what can we do to make that difference and make that change.
And let me give a little bit more context to the defunding the police based on how much I know of it. It's not saying that we wipe out the police altogether, but the police has a very large budget and they're asking for more budget, and the riot gear and everything that they're spending this money on is expensive. So instead of putting more money into the police budget, allocating that money to like social services, because police are often called to be social service workers at the same time, and they're not equipped to do that. So housing, funding, mental health services, social workers, social service workers. So start to descale back some of this money that these billions of dollars that are being used to, and the police funds go up every year to pay for these pensions and more riot.
And Terrell, and just real quick, I want to hit on defunding the police is not a good slogan. Probably need something else to say, because it makes it sound like we don't need police. So
right. And one of the things that we got to be careful of is that we don't put that out there, because it caught on momentum, and it was more of a hashtag because it was more something that people who were militant and were fighting and were out there rioting, they started using that slogan, defunding the police. But there is, as Terrell mentioned, just keep in mind, we scaled up funding for the police during 9/11. After 9/11, there was a massive scale up of funding for the police to militarize the police in case there was another terrorist attack. We haven't had a terrorist attack in this country in years, right? So what we're saying basically is why not allocate or reshift those funds towards community development, because right now that's what is needed more than just militarizing the police with riot gear and all this gear in the streets to actually fight community crime, So we're saying why not just shift those funds somewhere else so that it will make it not, and it's a win-win situation. It'll make it a lot easier in the police to fight crime because now there's a upliftment in the community and they'll be able to be more community presence and community policing in those neighborhoods,
I personally think everybody on this panel is on the same page. I think defunding the police was a knee-jerk reaction with the pain and all of the tragedy that African Americans had dealt with. And it was just, I think a lot of people are just tired of it. I think the biggest thing with that is reform. I think a lot of people are calling for reform. We need reform, like what Michael was talking about, infractions. When this stuff is happening 18 times, why are you still on the street? Why are you not on desk duty? Why are you not praying every day that you keep your job? So I think we all agree on reform. I saw some statistics and, these are just numbers people are throwing out there. But, I saw that to actually take care of the homeless problem in America would take $20 billion. And to make sure every child had education or something like that is $34 billion. And we spend $100+ billion on the police. So for the people who are saying, let's move around this money, is because they have the numbers to prove that we are spending more money on militarizing the police than we are on solving the homeless and the hungry problem that we have in this country. And we know that there is money, but here's the thing about it. It is all about economics. It's all about economy. That's all it is. It's all money. Absolutely. Racism is all about money. Racism, all of it. It's everything is about the dollar.
Okay, well we got entrepreneurs on here, so let's talk business. How do we, as a community, start to get them build up our own economy, build up our own economics, get our own equity, build our own businesses? You guys are entrepreneurs. What have you been doing to tell us how do we get there? Let's do it.
Cooperative marketing.
I spent the past 20 years helping people start their own businesses. Yep. And a lot of people try to scoff at network marketing and direct sales, and they're like, oh, pyramid and all that stuff. First of all, they're uneducated. But the second thing is, I spent 5 years in corporate America. I served my country in the Air Force for an enlistment, and I went to college for 4 years. I graduated from Mississippi Valley State. And all of those things prepared me to be a good follower and to never really be a good leader. And all of those things prepared me to make about $5,000, maybe $6,000 a month for the rest of my life, working for someone else about 6-7 nights a week, 10, 12 hours a night. When I joined network marketing, my first month, I made an extra $1,000, and I've earned eight figures. I've earned a lot of money. I've been retired I've been a millionaire since I was in my 30s. I have raised my daughter from home. I've been able to do that. And where other people laughed at me they may laugh, but I'm still laughing, right? I'm still laughing. And because of that, I actually started multiple businesses. I've owned a publishing company. I run a consulting company. I own my own digital magazine now. And I actually owned a restaurant that I sold for a profit. I've never lost money in a business because of what I learned in a non-traditional business decision. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying everyone needs to do network marketing, but what I am saying is we need to not stop. We need to, while we are telling these people what they need to do for us, we actually need to take a step to do for ourselves as well. Okay. And the same information is out there for everyone. Everybody could start a business. I'll tell you what happened during the pandemic. There are people that I coach, that I know, who did not want to start a network marketing business. Fine, not your thing. But you know what they did do? I had a friend who started a mask business. She started masks. She made masks. Like, I did a training. She heard it that morning. That night, she started making masks. And her sister said, I need a mask. She made masks out of Tiffany jewelry bags. And then other people was like, I want a Tiffany mask. So they started bringing her, they started dropping off their Louis Vuitton purse bags, their Prada shoe bags, and she started making masks. On Tuesday, she started a business. On Friday, she made $275. A week later, she had 2 contracts to make over 100 masks. She was making, during the quarantine, more money making masks than she was working on her job on the strip in Las Vegas. Helped someone else start their own art business. Someone else start coaching and consulting. Someone else wrote a book and sold 100 copies because people were hungry for his information. All I'm saying is we need to look inward while we're looking outward. Mm-hmm. While we're saying, you should do this for me, you should do this, this isn't right, because they're going to go as slow as they can. We need to move now because we can move faster than this big old ship that's the damn Titanic that we've all been trying to save.
Absolutely. I want to dive into something that you said real quick there, because you said the training education you got, whether it be military or school, didn't prepare you for this life as an entrepreneur or be a leader. Most of the training that we get in school, college, high school, all throughout our years trains us to be workers. It doesn't train us to be entrepreneurial, to think outside the box. Right. Color outside the box. So how does one make that mindset shift? What needs to happen for you to go from, okay, I'm gonna assimilate to a company, into a culture and be a part of the system, to I'm gonna do it myself and I'm gonna make my own wave?
Right. Read 30 minutes a day.
Yeah, that's
30 minutes a day of a good book. Change your mindset.
So talk about the process of you shifting your mindset, because we both worked in the corporation. You worked in a corporation too. Talk about your transition to what had to happen for you to change that mindset and what you started to do to get into that mindset.
Well, remember, everyone started with a process. So I had a process before I went back to corporate America. So my acceptability of going back to corporate America or in education was, even though I didn't believe so much 100% of the education, but what it is that people want for themselves. So if I can empower someone else to get that education, to do what they want for themselves, then I can do that. I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I've always believed of, doing what you want to do. I believe that the Lord put us on this earth to live life abundantly, not to live under someone else's hand, under someone else's man.
I'd rather live enormous than live dormant.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Everything that we need to know, there's a book written about it. Think and Grow Rich. That was a study from Napoleon Hill, like Mr. Dorman talked about. Think about what that book came about. That was the 20 most successful people at that time. What did they do to get that success? They didn't go to college. They didn't do this. They stepped outside of their norm. They did the 1%ers. It's like Mr. Robbins said today. I just spent 4 hours with him today. It's your state of mind. Change your state of mind, change your story on where you want to go, and then the how will come. Everyone else wants to focus on the how, but you got to focus on, well, what is it that I need to become? What do I need to do to move forward? And like Tiffany said, just take that first step. Pick up a good book, whatever it is. Read 30 minutes a day, because what you want to accomplish, someone's already done. So why do you got to rewrite the history books? Do what they did.
So I want to say something that is in the comments from one of our listeners, a good friend of mine. He said, industrial education right there, time to teach financial independence and business ownership. Simply having a side hustle business unlocks tons of tax benefits. Speak on that. How can somebody use their side hustle or start a side hustle simply to unlock some tax benefits and to level up?
So I'll just say my process was totally different from Michael's. Okay. So I grew up very well assimilated. My parents, did civil rights, and they knew education was the way out. And so I went to school. I got good grades. I went to college on full scholarship. I dropped out, went to the Air Force, went back on a full scholarship, got some more money, and finished school. So my whole thing was being like what everybody told me to be and do. That's what I did. But the problem was it wasn't giving me the life that I wanted. And the first thing a lot of people need to understand is, like Michael said, we are, we know it's scripture. We can have more. We can have more, and you just have to believe that, okay, if it's in me and I'm wanting it, that means I can have it. It's nothing wrong with it. So what happened for me was I just got sick and tired of being sick and tired. My dad worked for manufacturing for 30 plus years. When he got sick, the last 9 months of his life, they cut his short-term disability, took away his benefits. And instead of caring about and worrying about his health, he was worrying about taking care of my mom. And that was enough for me. There was no way I was going to spend the next 30 years, but I wasn't an entrepreneur. I wasn't taught to be that. My dad said, I said, you know, what should I do? And he said, look, make something, sell something, just do something. And so the biggest thing is to think that you can. One of the things we do well is give accolades and applaud other people for doing what we can do too. These people aren't special. They aren't better. They just did it. And a lot of us are so afraid to fail. So here's the process. Number one, everybody should be working part-time on their fortune while they work full-time on your job.
Amen.
If you never thought you could own a business, that's okay. But you should have a hustle. You should have a side hustle. Because if this quarantine hasn't taught us anything, just like that, your money could be gone, dried up.
Right.
And let me tell you what a lot of these employers did. While other people were sitting in front of unemployment websites, crashing, waiting for stimulus checks to come, these employers were sitting up there thinking, how can I make sure I don't lose again? So they started figuring out how to put their business forward without bringing these people back. So if they can do it to you, you better be ready to take care of yourself. So everyone should have a side hustle. I agree with your comment. The second thing with the side hustle, just get it incorporated. Just get it incorporated. The minute you have a side hustle and you have an LLC or doing business as, or this is me Inc., the minute you do that, you now have tax benefits. You have to understand that the industrial age educated us to be employees because the industrial barons needed people to do their grunt work so they could play golf all day. And the minute we understand that we have the same ability and the same opportunity, and we step into that, even if it's just braiding hair, incorporate yourself, write off everything you do. You buy the hair, write it off. You buy the combs, you buy the gel, you buy the weave, write it off. Save more on your taxes so you're not letting Uncle Sam take everything from you. Because if you don't have a business, a home-based business, for every 3 miles you drive alone, you're throwing $1 out the window. So it's about thinking differently and ushering in a new mindset. And if this pandemic hasn't done anything else, we need to say, what can I do to make sure I'm never in this situation again? And some people are uncomfortable with that. They'd rather go knock on someone else's door and say, this is what you should do for me. But they might just need to go Google something and go get a book to say, what can I do for myself?
Yeah.
Right. And it's all a mindset. Yeah, and it's all a mindset. As Tiffany said, man, I mean, one of the things that I want to encourage people out there is to listen to what she's saying, because number one, I had to learn, even though I had a side hustle and I actually organized my business into an LLC and a sole prop, I didn't know the tax benefits. Number one, is just keep in mind that the tax codes were written where there's over 475 write-offs for businesses.
Yes.
Right? And guess how much there is for employees, W-2 employees? 19, right? So just keep in mind, and that's how the system is created. Is either W-2 employees or your 1099, right? So if there's only two, which one, you got to figure out which one do you want to be in to benefit the most. And that's what we got to start teaching our community. It's that very same thing right there, is that it not only just creating a side hustle, but organizing that side hustle where, you know what, you can get the benefits, the tax benefits that is these big corporations again, because what you're doing is leveraging the same thing your employer is doing.
We've got to leverage the system. These same people getting rich are leveraging the system. And we're feeling like, oh my God, the man, no, we can do exactly what the man is doing himself.
Right.
We just got to educate ourselves and take a chance to do it.
So Michael, the other man, how have you, I'm sorry, go ahead. I'll let Will, I'm stealing too much of the show. Go ahead, Will.
I was going to ask Tiffany and Michael, you know, for those individuals who feel like they will not be good entrepreneurs, the other opportunity they may look at is, okay, I may not have the energy or have the drive to be an entrepreneur, but I do want to make extra money and have a business on the side. They may look at investing their money into individuals like, you know, like you two or Clinton or Terrell or Michael to say, I want to put my money towards you so you can help it grow. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Well, for me,
okay, go ahead, Michael.
Go ahead, Tiffany, ladies first.
Okay, I'll just say I think it's a really good. I think everybody can be an entrepreneur. I don't think they need to be dynamic, but the minute you start investing, you should still have a company that makes you an entrepreneur that you invest with, right?
Right.
But I think it is great thinking to put coveralls on your money. Make your money work for you, and don't think that you have to, number one, have like tons of money. I am so excited about all the apps and all the programs where you can actually invest pocket change. You can invest, this coffee money, the latte money. You can invest this and make that money work for you. I think that's very important. I think people should say, okay, maybe I don't want to do that. I like my job, because it's not about hating your job. It's about realizing, I'm sorry, I don't know the other gentleman's name who said the 19 tax write-offs versus the 472. It's just being smart. So I would make my money work for me. The other thing that I would do is, as far as not working your job, I would just say, okay, if I work this job, what am I going to do to make sure this job money actually works for me? And if it's no longer here, what have I grown and what have I either invested or worked to make sure that they can't ruin my life because I put all my eggs into their basket? So whether you think you're an entrepreneur or not, and the last thing is educate yourself. One of the biggest problems mistakes they make is they try to go into everything with as little education as possible, as little effort as possible. We will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and years of our lives on a degree and not even work in our major. But we could literally take 1/100th of the time and study a few good books, whether it's investing books, real estate books, entrepreneurship books, anything, and get good at one thing. I learned that if you study one thing, one topic for a year, then you will become an expert in your city. You do it for 3 years, you'll become an expert in your state. You do it for 5 years, you become an expert in your country. The question is, what are you going to be an expert in? It doesn't matter what it is. Decide I'm going to be an expert in something and consistently work on it. And when you consistently work on it, throw a DBA and LLC on it, all the money you spend on it, write it off and do it and make something off of it and then let it grow.
I like that.
And
Michael, what's your take?
So if you look at the Bible, richest man in Babylon. So one of my mentors, Jim Rohn, talked about one book that most people won't go out and buy. It's about this thick, but the philosophy and what you learn from that book, just like Tiffany talked about, is it teaches you how to make your money work for you. It teaches you how to, and when you get your paycheck, you don't pay your bills first, you pay yourself first. So it teaches you all the parables that it was going by, exactly what you need to do to be, and not everyone, most people that start out aren't an entrepreneur. They learn how to become an entrepreneur. I wasn't when I first got started. My background before the military was working in factories, being around negative people and being around gangs and being around drugs and all of this. So when I first saw someone that was positive, I thought there was something wrong with him because I was never used to that. But I learned how to become an entrepreneur. And that is by reading. But surround yourself, see who are the people you're associating with. Surround yourself with people that have what you want so you can get what they have and that are willing to teach you. So back to your question, to start out, look at who you surround yourself with your associations. What are you reading? What are you putting in this mind? One thing that the military is always inundated with is CNN. That's constant negative news. Why surround yourself with that? Surround yourself with positive things. Drive Time University. These are little steps that you can take. When you take a drive, put in a CD that's going to give you positive information into your mind.
What's that old saying? You the average of the 5 people you hang around.
Amen.
So if you hang around 5 millionaires, then guess what? You the 6, right?
That's right.
Yep.
Hey, it happened.
I like that.
Clinton, Terrell, one place you can go get positive information?
What's that?
What's that?
Talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Ah, there
Hey.
I like that.
So hold on. Let's segue. One of the comments here in the chat box is said, "Don't knock the sole proprietorship, though. No need to incorporate first." What are your thoughts on that?
Here's the thing. I mean, we're talking semantics here. I mean, as far as sole proprietor, DBA, incorporated, that's once a person gets educated. The basic conversation was, if I want to hustle, all I'm saying is make sure you're not hustling for cash and missing out on the tax benefits, because the money in your hand and the money that you get from saving and taxes can work. So it's not about, I mean, I have an LLC. I've been incorporated. I've had an S corp. That's as you get more advanced. What this conversation, I felt, and answering that question was not about what do you do first, because if you talked to me about that 20 years ago, it would have all been the same to me. Sole proprietorship, LLC, all of that, it wouldn't have mattered. What I needed was new associations, a new paradigm shift, and to know and believe that I could start a business. So once you know the why, the house will take care of itself. So I'm not a tax person. I pay people for that. But what I can say is, if you start a business, don't let it stay a hustle. Treat it like a business. And if you don't know how to do that, get the information from someone who does.
Absolutely. I definitely agree to that.
Yep.
Can I just add one thing about when we talked about what we can do in our communities?
Okay.
I will say this. I was the first entrepreneur in my immediate family. I maybe a lot of in a lot of my family. My family, smart people, most of them went to college, graduated from college, had degrees, good jobs, kept them for a super long time. But no one really started a business. I had an uncle who was in network marketing, but no one really understood what he had. And so, but I became the first millionaire. I became the first entrepreneur in my family. And what I will say is, what we can do for our communities is, when we take that step and we let the people closest to us see it, then they believe they can take that step too. So when I took that first step, everyone in my family told me I was crazy, but I kept going. Do you know that everyone in my family now has a business? My sister has an HR consulting firm. My niece has a business. My daughter has a business. My daughter is an award-winning kidpreneur. She has her own hand sanitizer, and we're relaunching it tomorrow. If y'all need the link, I'll let her come on here, because she's good
Okay,
stuff.
we'll put the links in the bio. Links all in the bio. Look at her.
So, but my point is, because of that one decision, people talk about breaking generational curses. It was a generational curse in my family to think that all we'd ever be able to do was work for someone else and hope they saw our worth, which they never see you worth. They buy us at wholesale and they sell us at retail. And so the biggest thing was when I took that step, and everyone, the same people who have businesses now, told me I was nuts. But because I took that leap of faith and I did it, everyone in my family has a business. They all have it. And it's not side hustle stuff. I mean, 5-figure monthly contracts. They have big businesses now, but they never thought they could do it until someone became the example. So how do we help our communities start in our own homes? Somebody start a business, treat it like a business, stick with it, persevere, get some little wins, and bring people along with you. Rich people educate their kids around the table.
Yes.
Most of these kids' education is not coming from Ivy League schools. Yes, that helps. But it's the dinner table conversations. It's the conversations in which you teach your kids and the conversations you have with your family. That's what changes communities. Well, and so that's what I think one of the first ways we can help our own communities. Do it ourselves and teach the ones at home.
And I say absolutely to that. But I do think the biggest thing for us to even get to that point is, we have to look at ourselves and look at our communities, because there's so many limiting beliefs in ourselves and in our communities. And we have to do a paradigm shift in here first. Because I was even one of them. I had limiting beliefs. I was like, I'm not an entrepreneur. I can't. Then I fell into entrepreneurship, and it's like, man, you already been doing this. Why you giving your talents away? Why don't you just do it yourself and take the check? And I was like, I don't know, because I can't do. I need this structure. I need this. I can't do that. And then once you start stripping away all those limiting beliefs, and then you come into your own and realize our people are the most creative people, most resilient people, hardworking people, but they just need to shift that mindset. And what do you think it was for your family, Tiffaney, to finally have that mindset shift? Was it, do you think it was you? Like, what was it in specific that you think helped shift their mind to that ownership model?
And just to add on to that question, I want to ask Tiffaney also, what was it, especially because family is you take advice from your closest people around you, which is your family. Now, what made you keep going and persevering, even though you found the obstacles around people who are closest to you? Because that's what a lot of our people in our community experience, because there's a lot of fear there, right? So what made you keep going, even though the people that were closest around you made you feel like you were crazy?
I think it's an excellent question. I didn't want their life. I didn't want their life. I just didn't want it. I loved them. I love my dad. He was my best friend. He was my hero, but I didn't want his life. I mean, my dad worked 7 nights a week, 12 hours a night. He sold back vacations. He gave us a life that he never had, but there was more I wanted, and I did not want his life. And before he died, he gave me permission to not have his life. And that was very huge to me, and I didn't want to let him down. And he raised us to say, hey, look, I am raising you to be a better contributing citizen than me. The last generation has to do better. This generation has to do better than the last. And so do better than me. He did. And even though he didn't know how to do it, he gave me permission to find the way. So even though everyone else in my family thought I was nuts, I realized you got to do something different to get something different. And for me, what was worse? Sitting up miserable in 20 years, being a factory worker, and that's fine if that's what someone wants, but it wasn't what I wanted. Or taking a chance and saying, well, I got it, or I died trying. And that was just what it is for me. So I'll just tell you about me. I don't care what nobody thinks about me. I think that's what a lot of people just need to get to. First of all, people worried about people talking about them. They're talking about you anyway. Give them something good to talk about. That's honestly what I feel. They're talking about you anyway. Sure. I honestly believe that. They have something to say no matter what you do. You might as well give them something good to talk about. And so they talked about me my whole life. I wore glasses. They called me Four Eyes. I read all the time. They called me a nerd. I did all kinds of stuff. My family talked about me anyway. It was par for the course. Right. Give them something good to talk about. But let me tell you gotta
have thick skin growing up in our families.
Hey, look, you gotta have thick skin just being black, period. Come on now.
That part there.
Why do we get all weak and cowardice and she talked about me? They talk about your man at the family reunion. They talk about your pants being too tight. They talk about your lace front peeling up. Why are you worried about what they say about your business?
All right, well,
that lace front was a write-off.
He's a fool. All right, well, let's do it like this because we got about 6 more minutes left. Man, that hour went fast. So I want you guys to go ahead and give me in a good sum wrap up. Tell me about what are you guys currently doing? Give people a little bit of knowledge what you're currently doing, how you build a community, whatever it is that you're into, and how they can connect with you. So go ahead and give us that. We'll start with ladies first, and then we'll go into Michael.
So what I'm currently doing is I'm coaching and consulting. I actually have a Diva 1K club, and basically that is a small amount of money, a subscription group where I actually coach women on how to take their side hustles, their network marketing businesses, and turn it into full-time income to change their families' lives. And so I'm doing that regularly. I'm working on a book. I'm speaking more. I'm doing my Common Sense Corner where I have conversations like this one. And people can get in touch with me on Instagram at Tiffaney Malott. That's the best place. And that's where I have links to everything else. I just want to say this. I am really working to do what you guys are doing. And I think it's very admirable. Is changing the conversation. Is to actually let a person stop scrolling because they see people like them having a different type of conversation. We can all be upset as long as we want, but phase 1 worked. We got their attention. Phase 2 is how do we push this thing forward and make sure there is lasting change. And the only way we do that is to continue these conversations and keep the momentum going. So Tiffaney Malott on Instagram, that's the place to find me.
She's swishing them like Jordan.
I'm giving these dimes, these dishes. Can I get my assist?
Nuggets. Those nuggets right there.
All right, Michael. What are you currently up to, and where can they find you?
For me, I'm working with my main focus is working with veterans, because as a veteran myself is to teach them how to become entrepreneurs, but also small business owners, because small business owners, they go through so much. And they don't have all the resources that big business owners work. So I'm working on different collaborations. I'm working with different companies. We're working on putting together something in Arizona for about 200 veterans. So just different areas to be able to help other people, like you said, maybe take that first step and become an entrepreneur, or with small business owners that need access to more resources. So I'm connecting people with what they need. And they can reach me through LinkedIn, Facebook as well.
You know what? That's a good segue. I'm gonna do one more transition before I let Will take us out. Is somebody who just saw this and they're taking they need to take that first step. Last words of wisdom for somebody that needs to take that first step. Go.
You take one step, I take two, and I'll be there with you to help you throughout the way.
Tiffany.
I think for me, for a person who wants to take the first step, is do it scared. Do it scared. Remember that every butterfly was a caterpillar. And so you're going to feel creepy and crawly. You're going to feel like you don't know what you're doing. You're going to feel like a hot mess. But every caterpillar knows where it's going. It will be a butterfly, and it just keeps going until it becomes that. So do it scared, do it anyway, and do it until. That's the first step I would take. And then DM me, because I'll help you find the resources you need to get where you need to go.
All right, Will, take us out.
So we got about 3 minutes left. Just so within a minute, each of us, Terrell, Clinton, and myself, what do we take away from Tiffaney and Michael? What did we learn today that we're going to apply to us and teach others? Starting with you, Clinton.
Okay, so what I want to say, I appreciate Tiffaney and Michael for coming on. You all were great guests. A lot of good information. What I took away from both of y'all is this: get out of your own way. Stop standing in your way. And it's a mindset. I mean, entrepreneurship is there for everyone. It's not a secret society.
That's
So
right.
just get out of your own way in your own mindset and take that first step.
Cool. What you take away from it, Terrell?
I know that I started my LLC this year, probably have my C Corp next year. So now I got to talk to my tax guy. Look at these benefits they talking about, all these write-offs, because I've been spending some money.
I have an app for you that I can send you for free that will help you with that.
All right.
Thank you. I'm telling you, I've been super inspired. I've had the most interesting weekend personally, and to listen to both speak today has truly motivated me. So if it wasn't for those who were listening, today's show was definitely for me. So I really thank you guys for coming on the show. What I learned from it is become an expert in something. If you take 1 year, you become expert in your city. If you say 3 years, you become expert in your state, and 5 years, you become an expert nationally. Is that what you said?
Exactly what I said. I learned that 18 years ago.
If that's true, I guess I've been running this city for a long time now.
Time to level up.
And what I take from Mike is, make sure you continue to stay updated and read at least 30 minutes a day. You read that 30 minutes a day, you definitely have a mindset change. So I really want to thank you two for coming on. You truly inspired me. I'm going to personally reach out to both of you. I sent you Facebook requests, so hope you accept me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and until next week, we want to have a great show, but tonight's show was on fire. Tiffaney was swishing them. Mike was putting them. So entrepreneurship is the way. Start your own side hustle. Whether you have a business idea now, come up with something soon.
Right. Thank you guys for having me.
Anytime.
Thank you for
Thank
coming,
you.
Tiffaney. Thank you for coming in, Michael.
Wait, don't log off yet. Let the intro music go out.
Yeah, I like that. That beginning music was good. So
The locks.
That's
So
the lock,
we'll see you next week, and you're listening to Let's Talk About It.
Peace.